unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We all have a role to play in decolonization and indigenization, and the work is never over. We are all treaty people. Just to give everyone a little bit of information about the debate, the candidates have already been informed of this, but for the audience, each candidate will have a set amount of time set at the beginning of a question to respond, and they will be called up one at a time to do so. And each candidate will also be given an opportunity to give an opening statement prior to the beginning of questions. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome up the candidates for the 2024 municipal elections. Please feel free to come up. All right. Now with all of you up here, obviously many people here are familiar with who you are, but for those of you who aren't, each of you will be given an opportunity to give an introduction. Councilors, you will have 2 minutes to give an intro, and mayoral candidates, you will have 3 minutes to give an introduction. We'll start from the far end. Actually, sorry, before we begin, I just want to acknowledge one more thing. You might notice that 2 of the candidates are not here today. We have, I believe, Howard and Mike Butler. Howard is out for medical reasons, and Mike Butler had a previous commitment prior to the setting of this date. Now, we'll start from the far end. If you'd like to get up and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jeremy. If I've knocked on your door recently, you might have heard me say that this is my first time running for council, because it is. I moved to Wolfville in 2017 after getting a degree at Dalhousie in urban planning. I worked here as an urban planner, and I actually found it really frustrating. Sometimes really simple things weren't getting done, and it was hard to be in the town and watch that happen, and then have to tell people I don't exactly know why things aren't getting done at farmers markets. So I left the town, and I had a really hard time finding what I would do next. Luckily, what I did find was a wonderful partner who had wonderful kids and a wonderful house of her own. And that gave me the privilege to turn my house into a little tiny 4-room hotel that I still live in, out by the fire hall. I was lucky enough to do that. But when I look at Acadia and the students that come through here, I always think it's a loss to see them leave after they're done their school. And I think about this even more when I see my parents, and they're getting older, and they're looking for a place to be, and they also are having trouble finding that place in Wolfville. So there's a part of me that really thinks Wolfville is this amazing place where dreams can come true and you can make your own job. But there's another part of me that thinks we've pushed really, really hard on tourism, and I work in it, and I know how many people I turn away. And I think it's really, really important now that we reflect on how to make Wolfville a really wonderful place for the people who live here, and really focus on those fundamental things that make that easier, which is everything from traffic to infrastructure to making sure that future development is really, really well planned to preserve the character and nature of downtown Wolfville. I really do think this is an incredible spot. If you're new to Wolfville, I think you've found the awesome place. And I'm looking at you right now and saying that because I'm really glad you're here. But not everyone can be. So that's why I'm running for mayor. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ian. Excuse me. I'm Ian Thomater. I'm on council now, and I'm re-offering. I grew up in this beautiful town, and I graduated from Acadia here, worked my way through university, did what everybody else did in my high school. I think we left and did our stint away and then couldn't wait to get back, and I came back here 27 years ago, I guess now. And, it's a beautiful place to live, and everybody wants to be here, but there's a few issues here that we just need to make sure that we keep, our infrastructure up to date and keep working on that, get everything done. The projects that we say we're going to do, we need to get them done. Kind of pretty much what Jeremy alluded to there. There's some reasons that I don't quite understand, but we need to make sure that we're not falling behind, because once you fall behind on anything, you can never catch up. And we need to work on our floodwater mitigation program. We saw what happened last year. I mean, we have a consultant report that's in the bank already. We just need to act on it. There's a bunch of things that just need to get done. And that's what I'd like to finish in my next 4 years on council. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I want to thank the ASU for this opportunity, and to the Acadia students and the permanent residents here for taking the initiative to learn more about local politics. Hi, my name is Jennifer Ingham, and I'm excited to be reoffering for Town Council. Having lived in Wolfville for 41 years and raising a family, I've seen much change. I believe I have much more to offer, and the opportunity to continue to give back and to contribute to the decision-making process in our town was my deciding factor. My experience as a dental office manager, which I dealt with financials and human resources, and as a varsity swim coach here at Acadia, provided me with a strong skill set needed to be an effective collaborator and communicator. My areas of priority on my 2020 campaign flyer were focused on accessibility, health and wellness, and being an advocate for those who don't feel like they have a voice. These still remain at my core values and my guiding principles. This is what as the committees that I've been on, both in equity, diversity and inclusion, and accessibility over the last 4 years, I feel I now have more depth, experience, and knowledge and confidence in understanding the main issues municipalities are faced with currently, such as building and maintaining a strong infrastructure as we manage growth, in addition to addressing traffic challenges, climate changes, that's just to name a few, while we continue to be fiscally responsible. Ooh, that's better. I love Wolfville and I love Acadia and what it offers our town to make our town so unique. But both my sons actually walked across this very stage, receiving their bachelor's degrees in biochemistry and engineering not so long ago. But loving our community alone is not enough to do my job as councillor successfully. I am an effective listener, I make informed decisions, I'm engaged with community and prepared at all council meetings. Building strong relationships through better communications with residents, businesses, and Acadia University will be crucial as we navigate the challenge faced with Wolfville's continued growth. So the public can vote for 6 councillors. So I ask you to look for diversity, someone who is actively engaged in our community, someone who has strong collaboration skills, as we have much work to be done. I feel I'm up for this challenge ahead, and I do humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I first just want to apologize for my casual attire. I organize the Acadia Intramural Run Club, which happens every Tuesday, so I literally ran right from there to here. But anyway, I just want to share a little bit about who I am and why I'm running for council. I actually grew up here. I went to Wolfville School and I attended Horton High, and now I have the pleasure of raising my own family here. I'm very passionate about Wolfville. I love this town, and more than anything, I just want to work hard to serve the people of Wolfville. In addition to that, I have dedicated my career to problem solving and innovation. I worked for Google for over a decade, and I led large digital transformation for Canada's most prominent advertisers. And I believe that that has equipped me well for a role on council and provided me with valuable skills that would benefit the town. Eventually, I had to make a decision between my career, moving for my career, or staying in Wolfville, and we chose to stay here. And I can just honestly say that that was the best decision we ever made. We absolutely love it here. And since then, I've dedicated my time to community development and volunteering. I'm currently the president of the Wolfville Business Development Corporation, a non-for-profit that supports the local business community. I'm also a member of the Planning Advisory Committee, which is a town committee, and I'm the associate head coach for the Acadia cross-country team. In addition to that, I have 2 young boys, a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old that go to Wolfville School. And if elected, I promise I will commit to effective leadership, working hard as a team to get things done and move things forward. And I will come prepared, engaged, informed, and interested. And above everything else, I will serve the people of Wolfville. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Strong. Just to differentiate here, this is Jeremy Banks and Jeremy Strong. My background is in business. I've managed businesses from an early age. While I was in university during summers, I managed a landscape company with 10 employees. Further on, I was able to manage and run a chain of 8 restaurants with almost 300 employees. I've helped design and overseen construction of 14 restaurants, which led me to Halifax, where I built a restaurant from that chain. I happily left that 14-year job to stay in Nova Scotia. My family loved it here. It was a great place to raise my family. We've made our first trip to Wolfville in 2012, and anytime we had free time, we spent it here. If I needed carrots, I would wait till Saturday morning to come to the market to buy carrots as for an excuse to be here in this town. My wife and I made a plan to move here. 3 years ago, we purchased a home, and we feel very privileged to live in this community. When we moved here, I left a job to take a position here in town because it's very important for me to live and work in my community. For 2 years, I ran Terra Rosa Trattoria in town. Some of you may know me from there. Through my relationships there, I met a lot of people in our business community. And I believe that those strong relationships I built led me to the job that I have now. I'm currently the Director of Program Management for the WBDC. This has allowed me to strengthen the relationships I had before and develop new ones with the town and here at Acadia through new partnerships and programs with the WBDC and also with volunteering for planning committees. Acadia University is becoming very important to my family, more and more important each day. My eldest daughter just started first year here in the music program, and my youngest daughter will be attending Acadia in 3 years. Our community here at Acadia and around Wolfville is helping to shape the future of our children, and I couldn't be more grateful. There are many issues for us to discuss and decide on with respect to running a town, but ultimately we need to remember that it is also a business with a budget to follow. I will always discuss and challenge others to help make decisions with the best interests of the town in mind. I will listen to you and bring your voice to town council. I have no agenda, just a love and passion for the town of Wolfville. So I believe this makes me a strong choice for town council, and I value your support if you give it to me. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to acknowledge all of you for coming tonight. You're here because you're a community and you want to see change and you're concerned about the leadership of this town. So thank you for coming tonight. Many of you know me. I have a strong history with the town of Wolfville. My grandfather came here, lived here in the 50s, and he eventually moved on to Kentville as the general director of the DAR. He brought, many of you might remember, the Bud car and the Dayliner that took you to Halifax. That was his idea. And I think that's something that I wish we had to this day. Many of you might know me through my mother, Maxie McQuaig, class of 59, who was an outstanding person in community, but also was outspoken, as you all know if you knew her. I graduated from Acadia in 1990, So actually 94 and 96. And you may also know me through my wife, who works at the Royal Bank. Tram Fam, who served many of you, is now working in Kentville. You may know me through my children, Jessica and Andrew, who attended schools with your grandchildren and children, who participated in sports teams at Valley United, Axe Volleyball, and Acadia Minor League Hockey. But you might be asking the question, why I'm up here on the stage and not sitting down with you? I assure you, it's not because the chairs are more comfortable up here. They're not. What you're looking at is you're here to listen to why I feel that change is needed in this town. You see the traffic. You see the concerns. I'm a small business owner for 30 years. Wolfville is not the quiet town that it was that many years ago. Things have changed. And I know you are concerned about those changes, such as traffic, parking, sustainable development, and also where your tax dollars are going. I have a background in finance. I run a small business. I know how to look at balance sheets. You need change, and I would like to be that vote for you on council. You don't just deserve it, you paid for it. Thank you very much.
Hi there. I'm Wendy Elliott. I'm reoffering, and I want to be evocative for a moment. I know people have talked about the practicalities, but I would like to speak about the landscape. So, Cape Blomidon. People speak of that landscape atop the Avonport Mountain that bonds us to this place. I believe them because I feel rooted to the shores of the Minas Basin. It has felt like home since I moved into Horton House residence, right over there, as a freshette. Finding community, though, is far more than a pleasant vista. When living in community, there are good times and bad times, floods and celebrations and change. That is normal. The overall benefit is what keeps the parts striving towards positivity. My community spans Wolfville and my alma mater. Wolfville has many parts, and for decades I had the very great privilege of being its scribe. That job taught me to listen. Listen at town council meetings, listen to people in the grocery store, and also to respond to their questions. Quality of life matters here more than big homes, big cars, and fat expense accounts. As a result, some events stand out in my mind as indicators of what a special community this is. I remember the Lions Club testimonial dinner for Wolfville's then retired garbage collector, Mr. Delahunt. That night in the dining hall up the hill, there was no empty seats, and they were all there to honor a man that many towns would have taken for granted. One of Catholicism's newer saints, Mother Teresa, not that I'm religiously overdosing here, but she once said that in North America, the most terrible poverty is loneliness. I believe people practice friendliness here. I see it on the sidewalk. Mother Teresa once said there is more hunger for love and appreciation in this world than for bread. I'm not so sure now that that is the case. Times are unequal. But her life reminds us that we can do no great things, only small things with great love. One of my hopes is that we will be able to house those who live among us and are in tents. This winter, they deserve to be housed, and others need help. I think we can help them because that is the spirit of Wolfville. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now invite each of the mayor candidates to come up and give an introduction, similar to the last ones, except they'll have 3 minutes to give an introduction. So we'll start off with Jody.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. For the past 20 years, Wolfville has been my home. I'm honored to be standing before you as a mayoral candidate for the town that I love. My husband, Renee, and I aren't originally from here, but we chose to settle down and raise our son, Cooper, who is now 16, in this wonderful community. Over the years, we've built lasting friendships and truly embraced everything this town has to offer. I grew up in Charlottetown, PEI, attended UPEI for my business degree, and continued my studies in management accounting at St. Mary's in Halifax. My professional experience spans government, public accounting, private enterprise, family-owned businesses, entrepreneurship, and healthcare administration. This gives me a strong foundation in strategy, budgeting, management, and leadership. Through my years on council, I've always relied on my core values: accountability, critical thinking, hard work, and integrity. These values guide my approach to every challenge and decision. My key priorities will be community engagement, infrastructure and asset development, relationship building, and communication. Over the last 8 years, I've gained experience on various committees, including accessibility, advisory, audit, planning, RCMP, King's Transit, Police Review, Annapolis Valley Trails, the Council Policy Review, and their Economic Task Force. I served as Deputy Mayor for 2 years, and I had the privilege of working with Mayor Cantwell, learning firsthand about leadership and mentorship. As Mayor, I want to bring my experience and skills to create a shared community vision, develop a strategic plan, and ensure the budget supports it. I've been described as a relationship builder, a team player, approachable, and always prepared. I'm often the person people turn to when they need to talk things through, and I take pride in being a good listener and offering support. I love helping others grow, building their confidence, and mentoring without hesitation. My part-time flexible job in healthcare administration allows me to truly dedicate myself to the role as mayor, and I've developed strong time management skills from years of juggling multiple jobs, volunteering, and raising a family. I'm confident that together with an engaged and prepared council, we'll tackle the challenges ahead and seize every opportunity to enhance life in Wolfville. I stay current with modern work styles while keeping an eye on the future. I bring a wide perspective influenced by my own experiences, whether it's raising a teenager or thinking about my parents' needs as they age. I am committed to ensuring from the very start that our council will be united and ready to work for you. Transparency and accountability will always be our priority, and I will focus on open communication, both within and outside of the organization. Thank you.
And next.
Good evening, and thank you to the ASU for putting this on. Thank you to those of you who are watching in, I'll call it the gallery, and anybody who may be watching on Instagram. I have to put this over here so I can see it. I'm Wendy Donovan. I was elected to council first in 2012. I served 2 terms as councillor, and in 2020 I was elected as your mayor. Since my bio is in many places, including my website, and I think on the town's website, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk to you very briefly about what I believe are opportunities and pressures on our town. 2 significant pressures that we face are the impacts of climate change, and we felt that in a most horrible way on July 11th, and housing needs. I believe that town leadership can and will provide options and opportunities, but managing our future is a team sport, or at least a team activity, and we are all important parts of that team. Our council, those of you in the community, our staff, and our regional partners. One of the things that I believe is a key role or purpose of a mayor is to bring people together to discuss the big issues and agree on solutions. That's the way I have operated as mayor over the last 4 years, and that's the way I will continue to operate. Early in this term, and we all remember that we were in COVID, and so things were happening on Zoom. We couldn't visit many places, but I had the opportunity to visit Acadia's STEAM space, and I was truly impressed. And later, once COVID broke, I had the opportunity to visit Acadia's Office of Industry and Community Engagement. Acadia's operations organizations, faculty, graduates, and undergraduates can play a significant role in creating opportunities that benefit our businesses, benefit you, benefit me, benefit our whole region and our province. I understand that one of the things we need to do if we're going to retain our graduates or attract young people from other places or entrepreneurs from other places is to provide housing and childcare and, of course, meaningful work opportunities. Those are priorities for me. They're not things that the town alone can provide, but with our partners, with Acadia, with our regional partners, we can do that, and we can be the place that people want to create a future. I often promote the concept of age-friendly communities. We have many older adults. I can barely see, but I see many of you in the gallery tonight. Some are retired, some are not, but all of you are the cornerstone of our volunteer community. Without our older adults, many of our food banks, our service clubs would not be as successful as they are. This is also a group who needs more and different types of housing, and as Deputy Mayor Elliott said, often deeply affordable housing. I am committed to helping our town, with its partners, provide housing for all ages and stages of life, and that includes safe and affordable student housing. I'm committed to a managed growth. That means ensuring that we have a clear, well-communicated plan for infrastructure and services that support growth. I believe that over the past 4 years I've built, and actually the past 12 years, I've built strong relationships, and I certainly have learned a great deal. Now is the time for experienced leadership to navigate those challenges ahead, and I'm excited to continue to lead Wolfville. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the candidates for a wonderful introduction. For the following question, you'll have 2 minutes to answer, and at 2 minutes, I will hold up a hand signal. So if you're wondering where you're at, that's your signal, and about 20 seconds in, I'll speak in to cut you off. Or 20 seconds over time, of course. So we'll start off on this end this time, if you would like to, whenever you're ready. This first question is, community safety is an ongoing issue that affects all members of this community. What do you think the greatest gap is in our community safety, and how would you address it?
When my children were little, Wolfville had a program where you put a sign in the window to indicate that you were part of the block safety program. I remember the only time that somebody came and knocked on our door was an Acadia student who had been frightened by a large dog that was running loose on the street. That says something about the safety generally of Wolfville. But I think we have to look out for each other. There are many times when the weather causes problems, and I know the seniors in the community find ice and rain and snow to be great challenges. When my husband had heart surgery, our neighbors came over and shoveled the driveway for us. That made it safe to go out into the world. We have 2 great compliance officers here in town, and the RCMP are only a phone call away. So there's many aspects to safety, but I think we're very conscious in this community that it's something we all have to act like neighbors. There was a block party recently on Hillcrest Avenue, and that was a chance organized by a bunch of different families. They got together, and if they didn't know each other before, they do now. And I think that's really, really important, is that we know each other and have relationships. It's been tough coming out of COVID. People didn't talk. They didn't get together. And now I'm hoping we can do that again, and that will lead to stronger community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, could you repeat the question just to make sure I understand it?
Yep. So the question is, community safety is an ongoing issue that affects all members of this community. What do you think is the greatest gap in community safety, and how would you address it?
I think the greatest gap did come from COVID. People were inside, students were inside, they started gathering in small groups. My encounter with some of our students is they were having gatherings and they weren't respecting some of the rules with COVID. That being said, we have got through COVID and we're starting to look at different ideas on how we start to socialize. You're seeing more and more students walking around with phones in hands and just walking across the street. So safety and traffic is becoming an issue that needs to be addressed. We do need stop signs and we do need traffic lights to have people stop and make sure people just don't walk out in front and get injured. 2 years ago, we had someone do that right across from Acadia and almost died because of it. So I do think that's a major issue, that we make sure we look at our infrastructure to make sure we do provide safety. I concur with what Ms. Involved with our student council so that they also know that they can help provide good ideas for students and how they can interact with the Wolfville community in a safe way. We have parks, we have wonderful open spaces. Let's get people out and so they can socialize each other. Let's get on our websites ways to provide ideas on how we can interact with each other. And once you have understanding and we can educate each other about safe ways of living together, we have a community. It takes a community to grow a child. Let's be a community. Thank you.
All right, so first thing I think of with safety here is our crosswalks. I've almost been hit 3 times crossing the street at Tim Hortons. I've had to run out of the way of cars. Street lights, I don't know if that's the solution to traffic in town to make things more safe. I think that's discussions we need to have. And I think that those discussions need to come from you as well, not just the people that stand on this stage. Last week I heard at the mayoral debate or conference that there was an idea that of changing our crosswalks to have a button so that people would have to wait for a green light to cross the street. I think that's a great place to start. I think that would be a good thing to try out and see if that helps with our traffic flow and safety with our crosswalks. As far as our community and taking care of each other, I may be the newest person on this panel that lives here, but I certainly feel that a lot of you and a lot of people on this stage have helped to take care of me while I've lived here. So I don't think that that's really an issue. Anyway, thank you.
Hi. So I think I just want to start first by saying that, one of the main reasons why we really love Wolfville and love living here with our kids is that we do feel that it is very safe. I certainly feel like this is one of the safest places I've been with my children, and really when I drop them off at school every day, I feel that's not something that I worry about. I feel that they are safe, so I really appreciate that about this town. But that being said, there are certainly things that would cause a gap in safety for the community as a whole. And I think the biggest gap that I see personally is around communication. Certainly, like, if you sense that something is wrong, or you witness something, or you have questions about something, it's like, who do you go and talk to beyond going and talking to your neighbors? This sense of community and gathering around what is safe or unsafe, being able to raise your concerns and have them talked about as a group. I just feel that that's limited here. I found myself being like, is there a number I can call, or who do I go to talk to about this? And I think that just kind of boils down to communication and transparency on what our resources are. So that's something that I definitely would like to see brought forward. I think just across the board, better communication and better transparency. I liked what Wendy Elliott had to say around getting to know each other and building relationships with one another. I think that that's really important. I'm certainly more of a honey, honey, catch the bee kind of philosophy. So certainly I see progress in community programming being one way that we can kind of help close the gap on community safety, getting to know each other, spending more time together, things like that. Thank you.
Hello again. I'm going to talk a little bit about the human interactions. I do agree, since COVID, how some of us process stress and deal with stress is different. I find sometimes we're rushing a lot, and when we're rushing a lot, we make mistakes. I can think of people going to the coffee shop, Tan Coffee, and parking in a handicap spot or an accessible parking spot. It's just not safe. It's parked too close to the crosswalk, and then the person going out cannot see it. I've almost been hit a few times. So I think basically we're in a rush, and sometimes we just don't think. So getting back to knowing our neighbors, I think that's really important. I have two younger children that live next door, and they don't actually have cell phones when they're 11 and 12, but they're at home. Many people don't have home phones. And so what did their parents say? How did they get a hold of them? And they were told to come over to my house. And I said, absolutely, anytime. So to build off the structural issues, I think having really sidewalks that are proper, having people of all ages and abilities being able to get to use our sidewalks are really important. Coming from an accessibility standpoint, I want everybody to be able to get out and about in Wolfville and feel safe. So there still are a lot of gaps, but I think we're working on them, and I hope that we're able to improve them. So get to know your neighbors. I guess I'll just, as I'm seeing Councilor Madeira Voss in the front, and she lives in the core, and oftentimes I'm out walking with her, I'm over at her place, and all the students are coming by, and they're like, hi, hi. And I was like, wow, she really took a lot of time to build the relationships with some of these people. So if they're walking on the street and it's late at night, they know that they have a safe place to go. So, interacting with your neighbors and getting to know people is really important. Thank you.
I guess that's kind of a two-angle question. The first one I would address, is the safety issue. I think, our sidewalks and our crosswalks, they certainly need a lot of work, as far as I can see, in all over town. There's some places that are even missing sidewalks, and streets that you wouldn't believe don't have sidewalks, and that can't be safe as traffic increases. A big part of my job is helping people and making sure that they can do things, and getting out in society, being friendly, just being in front of people and interacting. I think that's going to make the whole place safer. I mean, overall, I think the town is pretty safe. I don't want anybody to think that this is an unsafe town, because I don't think it is, and I can't imagine that anybody could say it is. But as far as safety goes, we need to address the traffic situation. Sidewalks, crosswalks it's got to be done, and it's got to be high on the priority list of the next council. And I think I'll just address it there. I wouldn't disagree with anything that anybody said. And it's kind of number 8. We have number 9 coming. So thanks.
Before I begin, I need to apologize to Ian. I made a yelp when I realized that I had ended my speech saying I'm running for mayor. I'm not. I'm running for council. I got nervous. But this question's about safety in Wolfville. And to be honest, I'm not always sure I'm the best person to ask. I don't always lock my door. I feel very safe in Wolfville. I do know that there are rare occurrences where I don't. In July, there was a flood, and a young boy of a similar age to one I look after passed away. And I never thought I would need to talk about flood safety with our kids. I didn't. It's flash flooding. It's Nova Scotia. We don't have that, but we do now. Years before that, there was a snowstorm and it got so cold that we lost power in downtown Wolfville. And my house doesn't have a wood fireplace. And I needed to know my neighbors so that I could be warmed by a fire. And to the point that everyone else has been talking about, knowing your neighbors makes a huge difference. Whether that's by hosting a street party or knocking on their door and introducing yourself. You don't become scared of people you know and have met and enjoy the company of. That being said, there are some basic stuff. Traffic in Wolfville is crazy and people do get hit. A young person lost their leg not too long ago because they were hit by a car crossing traffic. And I think it's really important that we think about how to slow that traffic down in Wolfville so that when someone does make an accident by stepping off the sidewalk without looking or by slipping past a stop sign too soon in their car, that accident doesn't result in something that changes someone's life. Those are really basic infrastructure things that we can think about. On top of that, we do have sidewalks that make it difficult to walk safely through, and I was just chatting about that. My parents, as I mentioned, are having mobility issues, and that becomes a very real thing. But the truth is, there are scary moments in Wolfville. I was physically threatened at one point, and I went to the police office, and I knocked on the door, and it was locked. And I picked up the phone, and I wanted to call a cop, and they said, "Hold on, we'll call you back." And so I ran, because we didn't have that kind of enforcement in Wolfville that was present and available when you need them. And I don't know if that means we need a community liaison officer or an RCMP officer or bylaw officers or all of them.
Excuse me, Mr. Chan, you can wrap it up, please.
But there's work to be done.
Next, I'll have Wendy Ma come up to answer the question.
Well, community safety is really big. As I've listened to people, there are so many things. I'd just like to mention 3. First of all, there's physical safety. I know I often get calls, often from students, about streets that are too dark, streets that don't have street lights on, and they are nervous about walking home from school late at night. It's not that late, but it's dark outside. I think we have to look at that in the town. Marsh Hawk is one of the streets that I get called about. No sidewalks and no street lights at night. So that's something that we need to do. Sidewalks have been mentioned. Absolutely, it's easy, particularly when it's dark, to trip on those sidewalks. And the third physical thing I will mention, I love the idea of the hand at crosswalks. Crosswalks have to be both one of the more dangerous parts of our town, but also one of the things that is really impeding traffic. So I will be a strong proponent of a different kind of crosswalk stopping process. There's also organizational supports.
We have a new relationship with the RCMP, and you may have seen over the summer bicycle patrols and more RCMP officers on the street. I would like to see that even more so. That's something that we will have to work through now that we have a new contract with them. We have compliance officers. We have 1.5 wonderful compliance officers who do walk the street and who do have a very strong relationship now with Acadia's safety and security. There was a time when I was first on council where there was a kind of a sense the police don't go on to Acadia, safety and security do not come off Acadia. I don't know about the logistics of that, but my sense now is that they are working very closely together. So that's a win for us. I would like to see, someone mentioned the storm, and maybe we will talk more about that, but we really need to, we have a REMO, which is a regional emergency management. We need to, you know, work harder on making sure that as a region, we are on top of what happens so that people can be evacuated and move out of the area of danger quickly. And the last thing I will say, we have put on hold, but it may come back, a community safety officer for the town that will work on helping to make changes in things that cause
I'm going to have to cut you off there. Thank you.
Going last doesn't leave a whole lot of options, does it? I could surmise a lot of the things that have been said. Certainly, crosswalks. For anyone who's watched me on council for the last 8 years, crosswalks has been one of my biggest beats for sure. I think raised crosswalks can add to safety. We have to look at our bike lanes. They are not safe either. The grates are in the wrong directions, and they're unsafe for those traveling on wheels. Certainly our relationship with the RCMP is better, but we often hear of the speed on how high it is on many of our streets, especially coming in and out of town, on Highland, Gasborough, and on Main Street. We need better enforcement on those things. Certainly the community liaison officer was one that we talked about at Town and Gown that will be helpful for students and community members. We've also talked about keeping it social. Raising a young person, making sure that substances such as alcohol and other substances, our community is safe from those. And I think our last thing that I would mention is our recreation programs, bringing people out, making sure there are offerings for all ages to come and do things so that there are, people aren't lonely and they have other things to do besides sitting at home, but also it's a good way for people to connect and take care of each other. Thank you.
It was touched on a little bit by a few of the candidates, and I want to give everyone an opportunity to speak to this, but infrastructure in the town is on the minds of many voters this election, with many sidewalks in poor condition, streets that have potholes, and drainage systems that can't keep up with heavy rain. What are your priorities in this area, and what will you do to improve this infrastructure? We'll start back on the end with Jeremy Banks.
Sure.
You also have 2 minutes.
Okay. Infrastructure. Yeah, that's a huge one. It's, the biggest question I get knocking on doors is, what are you going to do about it? And I'd love to say I'm going to do X, Y, Z, but the truth is council is a conversation that comes together to a conclusion. I can't say what I'm going to do with it because it's all about council. What I can say is that near and dear to my heart is infrastructure. It's not sexy. It's not gloriful. It's not filled with glory. It's not beautiful. But potholes and gravel pits on burst main pipes are irritating and problematic for not just the people on Main Street, but on everyone on a side street from that Main Street. It's a pain in the butt to be on a road that has more cracks and crumbles on it than you know what to do with. It's a pain in the butt to have a sidewalk in front of your house so crumbly that the snowplow comes by and leaves chunks of asphalt in front that you have to shovel while you're shoveling the snowbank. I've lived that. It sounds like some people have too. So what are we going to do? I don't know. But I do know that we can't keep growing and growing and growing without remembering to do the basic stuff that keeps the house in order. You don't get to keep adding additions to your house without making sure that everything without making sure the rest is still working. You don't get to travel the world without remembering to pay your visa bill. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so as we grow and grow and grow, and I'm pro development. I think growth is great, but we can't have that untempered growth without realizing that there's this very basic stuff that we need to look at. And when it comes to climate change especially, we're seeing more and more weather events that are totally unpredictable, and they're happening more and more frequently. So trying to anticipate how we can better accommodate those events so that when they do happen, we can manage them better is becoming more and more important. And some of that is physical infrastructure, and some of that is, as has been mentioned, having emergency centers as well. So, but the funny part, and Sam, you're going to cut me off in 10 seconds, aren't you? The funny part is that a big chunk of infrastructure, though, is having your neighbors around. During that flood I mentioned, we had friends from New Orleans, and they knew what to do during a flash flood. And they told us. And so infrastructure isn't just physical, but it's also the community we're in. And I really
I'll have to cut you off there.
hope everybody remembers that. Thank you.
I think there's kind of two angles to that question, or that question. The first one is like program expenses and replacement. I mean, we all know we have infrastructure that it's crumbling, we know it's old or not, and if it needs to be replaced, we need to get the tenders out early, figure out a way to get those, because I spent my whole 20s, 30s, and 40s in infrastructure. In getting the early tenders out are the ones that get the best deal on best pricing on getting streets redone, new pipes in the ground. And that's what we're going to have to do. The reality is we're going to have to replace in the next 10 to 15 years, I'm guessing 70% of the pipe that are in the ground. I don't know what the percentage is. That's off the top of my head. But we have to get those tenders out early. Getting the tenders out in August, nobody wins. That means it spills into next year's work and it gets hung over. It's not the way we want to do. We got to figure a way to get those tenders out early. And that will look after a lot of that infrastructure problems we have. And that's the stuff that's programmed infrastructure replacement. Then we have the emergency infrastructure replacement, like we just had out last week in front of Tatting Stone. Like, that's the stuff that when we get it done, we have to get it done, get it over with, and get it fixed right instead of getting back 2 or 3 times. I don't know what the answer to that is. But if we can support our public works guys to do that right the first time, we don't have to do it a second, a third, or a fourth time. And those are sort of 2 issues that we have to get done, because our infrastructure is getting old. We have to make sure that it's current, and that means we have to have a program system to replace it all.
Hello again. I guess the first thing I can think of is communication. We need to communicate to the public more. What is going on? Why are things being fixed? What exactly is infrastructure? We think of roads, sidewalks, sewer, power, transportation. All of that is infrastructure. And how do we communicate to the public on why we're doing something when they maybe thought we were going to be doing something else? As we're sitting here right now, I can hear the rain. Every time it rains, I think, is the brook beside my house going to flood? Will it go into the neighbor's house? Every time we have a storm, and we know that there's severe climate change, we know that, we have infrastructure damages to the crosswalks, to the sidewalks, to the roads, all that sort of stuff. People ask about potholes. I can't blame it all on climate, but when we have these storms, I worry. I guess I never really worried before, but now that it rains, I'm like, wow, what are we going to be left with? I think that our Regional Emergency Measures Organization has very good messaging. You know, they detail that you should prepare an emergency. We all need an emergency kit to be able to walk out the door, because at any point we might have to leave. Yeah, there needs to be better messaging. Also, I think that safety, again, is really important, and I keep emphasizing safety. I guess when there is a storm, and like I just said this, I feel like, is the community safe? And that is why we fix the infrastructure and we do what we do. Like Ian said, our town is old, it's aging, there's a lot to do. And sometimes things get pushed into different years. That is for you to be safe. I guess I have many other thoughts, but that's it. I'll let somebody else speak.
Infrastructure, I would say, is the top priority in my opinion. I have witnessed, since I've lived here, on numerous occasions, sewage coming up out of the drains. I live on Main Street, and I've seen it underwater on numerous occasions. And my own house, which is brand new, 4 years old, with a fully finished basement, has had 3 sewage backups in the 4 years that we have lived there. So I feel very passionate about this topic, and I believe first and foremost that we need to get our own house in order, and that means having a really close look at what's running underneath the ground. As Ian said, what 75% of our pipes need to be replaced. And I see the way to do that is making it a priority. This is about direction of funds, and if this is a priority, then we can have a plan. We can put money behind it and say, okay, maybe it's not going to happen next year, but here's the plan to get this done in the next 10 years or the next 15 years. And in my opinion, it hasn't really been prioritized until now. And not yet now, hopefully soon. Yeah, I think that it's incredibly important and that we need to take it seriously. So thanks.
I agree with Kelly. This is number one for me. I've been through two major redevelopments in Ottawa on big main roads that were reactionary. They weren't planned for, and it cost the city a lot more money than it should have. Thank you. We need a plan. We don't have one. Why not? Why aren't we talking about it? Why aren't we making one? We all like the new flashy things, and I know we've approved a new library, town hall, community center. And sure, I love the idea of having that, but if that means that we have to be reactionary on some of these infrastructure items, then I would prefer to spend the money there. Let's make it safe for all of us.
Two minutes for this, Sam, only?
2 minutes.
Big issue, and a very important issue to me. The biggest concern I have is if you look at, be it from snow to water, it is about infrastructure. And I think we're behind in that, especially on Main Street. If you saw when we had that last big storm, all the drains were being backed up on Gasborough and on Main Street, and it was flooding. So what does that mean? I think we need to look at how we handle stormwater infrastructure. There needs to be an upgrade on the infrastructure of this town, but mostly storm drains so we can disperse water. If you have backup on those, it's going into people's houses, and my biggest concern is how many times can this happen before they stop insuring you on your houses, and that would be a real cost to everyone. So storm infrastructure needs to be addressed. The second one is how we can reduce that and make it a little bit easier to the town is something called green infrastructure. How can we include permanent surfaces that can absorb water and not let it just run down like rivers down the streets? Stop it before it gets onto the streets. Another one is runoff reduction initiatives, gardens, green spaces, that we catch that water, we absorb it into the ground before it gets down to the main streets. Most importantly is public engagement. How can we ask your help? How can we work together to make sure that we can do it together? initiatives, education. We can give like how to do certain gardens, landscaping, that it just doesn't run off your property and onto the street and down and overflowing the drains into other people's basements. What this all comes down to, since I only have 2 minutes, is something called water sensitive urban design. This is something that the town has expertise in. There is plans in place. Most important is we start enforcing them. We have people going around and making sure that people enforce it. We all see the sediment running down Sterling Avenue and filling up the lake at the bottom there. We will not have a lake there anymore. It will eventually become a marshland because of the silt running down from these projects. Sustainable development is the key. A plan that goes beyond one council, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, so we're ready. We're ready for the next big storm. And you say that that last storm we had, that young Mr. Palmer died, is not going to happen again? It will. This is about safety. It is also about your lives. So let's get a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, so we're ready. A green plan. Thank you.
I'm not terrifically informed as to the practicalities of infrastructure issues, but I do know that we weren't prepared in July. Even though West Hants had its huge flood a year earlier, everyone thought it was a one-off. And then it happened here. And the shoulders disappeared off roads. Some roads broke up. The planned infrastructure updating had to be delayed in order to fix the absolutely practical stuff on the side of the road. I'm always conscious that we live on a hill and the water goes down on certain occasions, but we also have a harbor that is not protected from rising tides. If you've been down on the waterfront, you've seen the sculpture of Vernon T. Smith, whose railway was wiped out by the Saxby Gale. That just came in to every town, but especially into Wolfville. And in a sense, we have to be ready to pivot for whatever the next emergency is. It's not easy. I'm not an expert in this. We have a very good public works director in Mr. D'Souza, and we just have to sit down, I believe, and hammer out, is the water coming that way or is it coming that way, and then deal with it. That's my thought.
Thank you very much. I'll have Jody come up to answer this question first.
Yes, infrastructure is probably one of the biggest issues that I hear at the doorsteps: streets, sidewalks, and stormwater. I think that we need to be conscientious about what we've been doing. We haven't really kept up with our plans. We don't finish our capital projects, and our work in progress has gone up 400% year over year. So that means we aren't finishing what we said we would do. So if we keep doing that, we're going to fall further and further behind. So I think we need to come up with a vision, we need to budget for it, and we need to put in the plan. This year during budget season, I had asked for an operations plan, and we didn't come to that either. So I think when we sit together, we need to get the data. I agree with Jeremy Banks. Get the data. We need to talk to you all about what is actually happening on your properties. I learned a lot about people's properties and what was washing away behind them and where the water was flowing. So I think we need to engage you in the discussion and figure out where the problems are and come up with those plans to ensure that they don't happen again, and then finish the jobs that we say we're going to do. Thank you.
Infrastructure is everything from our sewer plant to our water treatment plant to pools and pickleball. It is everything. It is streets, it is sidewalks. We have a $15 million budget, of which about a third goes to new infrastructure. We have to decide as a community. Council will sit around, as council does every year, to debate who gets this much money, which road gets done here, which sidewalk, how many potholes, how many streetlights. I have said for years, please come out and help council, because we need to know. We need to know if the most important thing is for us to put a few $1 million into raising the dike at the railway trestle. Or do we put that money into our new library or to pickleball? The problem is we have a very small tax base. We have a lot of needs and wants. We do get a fair amount of money from other levels of government, but it's still not enough to cover all of the things that we have to do in our town. So the reality is, council will do the best they can with the information that we have and the decisions we have to make. It would be really helpful to know if our community, our residents, want us to focus on things that relate to safety, rather than things that relate to the things we really want to have, the pool, the pickleball, the parks. I think we've been trying to do both, maybe not as successfully as we can. That's the situation that we are in as a town, and we have to come together and make really hard decisions. I'm sorry that's not the good news, but that's the reality of our town.
Thank you. Our next question will be the final one for the councilors, and then we'll move on to two questions for the mayor candidates that will take a little bit less time. So for this last question, the province has tasked municipalities to develop an equity and anti-racism plan by April of 2025. How would you ensure that our municipal plan addresses inequity and racism in the community? We'll start from this end. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I think the town is on it, actually. We have been lucky enough to start in on the accessibility issues early. We were picked out as a trial community and have done that initial planning. Of course, it's always updated. And we got the word that equity and racism and diversity were next. And we knew the calendar was indicating when that had to happen. Our communications officer, Barb Shaw, is making drafts and thinking ahead on this. We're also very lucky that Acadia has hired a associate vice president from BC, and Lorato is an expert in all of these issues. And we can also call upon many, many community members to help us make a plan that is workable and needs to happen. Thank you.
This is an issue that is dear to me. I was an international school teacher, so I spent many years in Vietnam, where when I grew up in a community where being a white male was more the culture, I was a minority over there, so I felt the difference. My wife is from Vietnam, so my children are biracial. So I hear that. I hear when they come home, and yeah, there have been comments. So it's dear to me that we do create an environment, a community where all is accepted. We do, I think Wolfville is an amazing place that things are being done. We always can learn from this. We could always improve, but we have Acadia. We have amazing experts that have been educating, and I've been listening to them about how we can make a community more inclusive. I think the policies that the council has been working on in the past are there. I think we've done a great job. I'd rather live in Wolfville than any other community, because I think you have created a welcome to people from different cultures, my wife included, and my children. So That's what I would thank you for. I think we have done a great job. Thank you to the current council, what you've done. Thank you.
I think Wolfville is doing well in this respect. We're seeing more foreign workers in town. I was an employer of 4 at Terra Rosa. I grew up in a small town in Ontario, all white. And when I was about 10 years old, there was a huge influx of people from India and Pakistan. And the things that these kids went through were horrible. All I can say is that in order to move forward even further, we just need to show more acceptance. This is a tough subject to talk about. It hits a lot of people hard in a lot of ways, but we just need to be more accepting. That's all. We can benefit from having more immigrants in town, more workers, increasing the amount of people that come to Acadia from other countries. I really don't know what else to say. I'll leave it to someone else, but thank you.
So it sounds like council is possibly or is doing a good job already, which is great to hear. So I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about something that I touched on previously, which is around communication and transparency. I think that it would be great going forward if there was a lot more touch points with council from the community perspective so that we could discuss these things and come together, and maybe that's something formal like a town hall that happens once a month or twice a month to hear about the initiatives and provide feedback and bring the community together with council. Or maybe it's something that's even more casual, like coffee mornings with council at the Legion or something like that. It's just that I want to bring a broader communication to what's happening and the things that are coming forward on council, and really be able to hear from the community on what they think and make sure that they're aware of it. I think that's it. Thank you.
Hello again. When I first heard that Wolfville needed to have a plan into the province on April the 1st, I was really excited. My first 4 years on council, I spent in the County of Kings on their diversity committee. As recently as last November, I brought forward to council, can we have our own diversity committee? We have a certain demographic, different demographic with Acadia, that I felt that even though we don't have any borders in Kings County, we certainly have an influx of students coming from different countries. So that's the uniqueness. So that being said, my head is just spinning right now because I can think of everything that we have been doing since we started in the 4 years. We started in COVID. How do we get out to the public? Because it's so important to get out into the public. The County of Kings has their own strategy for belonging. I hope that we also have one. I'm really excited that we now have our own diversity committee. If you check on our website, you'll see that the terms of reference, we have passed the terms of reference, and I want to thank the council who we all have bought into this and know that this is something that is very important to the community. So that being said, I encourage anybody that feels like they want to make a difference to apply to be on this committee. You'll see the terms of reference and sort of what we're looking for. The other thing that I want to say as a personal note is that the soups and sides that the town of Wolfville put on was in a response to an Acadia initiative from the Community Development Department. And just not this past Monday, but the Monday before on the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, we served over 200 bowls of soup. And the conversations that were had and the people that you meet each time. I just welcome every single person to join us on Monday night and have that conversation, and just really feel the spirit and the love that's in the town. I also encourage everyone that we are actually offering international host family for international students. I knew I was going to go over time. I have so much floating around in my head. I'm really excited about this plan, and I do want to thank council again too. Thank you.
I just want to give a shout out to Barb Shaw and to Councillor Ingham. What we have done in diversity in this town, we have our foot full on the gas pedal on that one. We can't let it off. I think that we're a very open town and very diverse. We're open to almost anything at town council. It's quite interesting how it goes around. I would encourage anybody to check out what we have done. I'm personally quite impressed at what we have done, and I would say that everybody who is on council now is fully behind it, and we spend a fair amount of time with that as far as our committee of the whole and on council meetings, and I would encourage anybody to check out what we've done, and I'm pretty proud of what we've done. Thank you.
Hi. I don't think we're good at equity or dealing with racism. I really appreciate the initiatives that are happening. And to Ian's point, we're putting the gas pedal on committees, and we're putting the gas pedal on community initiatives. But when I look around here tonight, I don't see a huge amount of diversity. I had a guy from Nigeria stay at my place for a couple days before he went to university. He didn't feel welcome. He's not here tonight. I came from away, and when I first got here, I had a really hard time meeting people. It was really hard. It wasn't fun. And everywhere I went, people would say, "Who are your parents? Where are you from? When'd you come here?" Knocking on doors, I still get that. I got that today. It's an honest question. But when I think about diversity, I look at the students from Acadia that are here, and I see way more diversity. And I don't see that diversity in the people who've decided to make time tonight to be here. When you look at a census, more and more people are coming to Nova Scotia from away. More and more people from away are coming to Wolfville. And they're not coming just from other provinces, but they're coming internationally here. And so when I think about what we can do about diversity, I think the first thing we need to do is look around and think about who's not in the room. Because there's a lot of people that have a voice, or should have a voice here, that for whatever reason aren't here right now, are facing barriers, don't know about it, don't have the privilege to be here. When we do find those people, we need to ask them what they need to help reach those goals. Because we don't know, and we're not experts. But the worst part is that it shouldn't be on them to make that change happen, because they're already facing barriers every day. And we need to make the effort to feel uncomfortable with the fact that we still need a lot of work on this.
This is your time.
And that uncomfort is a really important part of getting better at this. Thank you.
I'll have Wendy Ma come up to answer this question first. When? Yeah.
What is the last name you're giving?
I might be giving you the wrong answer. I'm so sorry.
Donovan, that's okay.
Donovan. I get something else in my email. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Wendy Donovan. Councillor Ingham, thank you for you mentioned some of the things. We will have a new Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity Committee. That might not be the correct name, but it will start in the fall, and there will be, if there may already be something on the website if you are interested in being part of that. And Councillor Ingham also mentioned a number of initiatives the town is doing. I'd like to talk about some other things that are happening that may not be quite as obvious. Several of us were invited and participated in last week's Truth and Reconciliation activities here at Acadia. I know I attended in the past couple of years and was invited and attended to a number of Ramadan dinners. They're great opportunities to meet our international students of Muslim faith. And last winter was Acadia's first, I think it was called Black Student Awards, and it was the first one, and it was lovely to be there as part of that group. I'd also like to, and since we have two people here, I'd like to shout out to the WBDC members. We, as the town, asked them, and they stepped up in terms of getting foodstuffs and food products and beauty and hair products that our international students who didn't have cars and couldn't get into New Minas could have in Wolfville. So slowly and surely we are starting to bridge some of those gaps, and I appreciate the work that Council has done and that our business community has done and that Acadia has done to involve us in their initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Jody.
Yeah, this is a tough conversation because I think the council has done quite a good job on moving the needle on many of these things already. Jen was our diversity rep at the County of Kings, and as you can see, she has a great passion for it and brought back a lot of initiatives that we did do. We increased our holiday celebrations. We do many programs for all ages. We have a memory cafe for those that are suffering with dementia by Dr. Cassidy, a local resident. We do welcome events. We revisited our international host program, our suits and sides. We do, our accessibility plan has been in place for 4 years and it's being revamped all the time to stay current. We use plain language in our communications, and we also offer streaming for many of our meetings. And I rang off all of these things the last time we had our meeting at the Legion last week. And then a woman stopped me on the way out and she said, "Do you really think you're doing a good job? Look at the crowd." And there was nobody of any diversity in the crowd. So I took note and I said, I thought back to a meeting that we had at the County of Kings, and it isn't enough to say we're doing these things. We actually have to go out and invite people to our conversations. Don't leave it on them, as Jeremy said, to say, oh, all are welcome, all are welcome. If there's a barrier in place, they will not jump over that barrier to get here. We have to be more mindful about the process and the way we do things, and I think we can do that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all of the counselors for coming up and contributing, and afterwards, if you have any questions for them, feel free. I'll now begin with the first of two questions that are directed specifically at the candidates for mayor. This first one, you will have 90 seconds to answer. Students often express that they feel their contributions to the town are undervalued. How would you work to address this and connect the student-resident community to the resident community at large? I'll give this one to Jody first.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's almost following up with what I just said. We have to engage them, bring them to the table, involve them in our conversations. For a while there, we had meetings between town council and the ASU representatives. That has fallen by the wayside. I think we can reconnect that. And another way we can do it is actually this voting election time. We actually didn't put a voting box or voting station on campus and making them come into the town where they don't even know where the visitor information is, some of them, is putting them at a detriment. Their voice isn't actually being heard. So I think we need to be really mindful about how we communicate with them and engage with them. And if we want these students to feel welcome and to contribute and to be part of our community harmony, I think we have to really step out of what we're doing now and invite them to the table.
Now Wendy Donovan.
Yes, I would agree. I think COVID put a stop to the pairing of the ASU council and council. We should start that again. We actually have a number of co-op students that work with us, and maybe, you know, if you are in the mayor's office, you get to meet them, but I'm not sure all of council gets to meet them. Maybe we need to be a little more specific about how we get to know the students who actually do work with us. And there are many. I have another note here. Oh, and one of the things that I have enjoyed, and I've done it as mayor, I think I did it once or twice as a counselor, and every beginning of the year, the president of the university and some of our staff and the mayor went door to door just to say, welcome to Wolfville. Here are some things that the town can do. Please let us know if there's some things we can help you with. And I often get calls from students who run up against an issue with the town, not necessarily a negative issue, but they're just not sure how to navigate that. I think we need to celebrate those things and absolutely make sure that students know that they are part of our community and we welcome them and we are there to help them.
Thank you. And for this last question, you'll have 2 minutes to answer. Housing has become an issue of increasing importance in this community, with many members of the community experiencing unaffordability, crowded housing, or homelessness. What processes or strategies would you focus on to address the housing crisis in Wolfville? We'll start out with Wendy.
I'm not sure I can keep housing to 2 minutes because it's a real big, important thing for me. I think we need to do a number of things. I was pleased, as I'm sure all of council was, when we passed the East End secondary plan. That will provide a variety of houses, smaller houses, different tenures of houses for age groups across the spectrum. That can't come fast enough. We also need to, we have homeless people. For the first time since I moved to Wolfville in 2007, now there were, every once in a while we would see someone in Reservoir Park with a tent. This is the first time that we have had is that my 2 minutes? Sorry. Okay. This is the first time we have had.
We're all diabetics in the world. Get one of these, the best thing in the world.
I've paused your time. You can continue when you're ready.
Okay. This is the first time we have had a group of people living homeless for the last, for really in the last year. There are a group of us, the members of the community, some of them are in the gallery tonight, who have been working to try and, you know, fill some gaps, but that is not the solution. Council passed direction at the last council meeting for our CAO to reach out to the Minister of Housing. We need money. We need support in our community to move people into appropriate housing. The last thing I will say, I was really excited to get a letter earlier this year from, I think it's the Nova Scotia Student Housing Group. They have purchased a house on Highland for student housing. What I want to see in this community is safe, affordable, appropriate student housing. If you want to know what keeps me up at night, it's knowing that there are a few places, because I've had calls from parents who will not leave the address, whose students are living in places that are not safe, that do not have a window, do not have a second way to get out. What keeps me up at night is worrying that there will be a fire in one of those places and somebody will die. I want every student to know that if they are not living in a place that's safe, call the town. Our staff can check that out. Whatever the concerns they have about being, letting us know where they live, it pales compared to a serious accident. So safe, affordable student housing and safe, affordable housing for everyone in our community is an absolute priority for me and has been through this entire term. Thank you.
And now Jody.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, housing is a huge affordability issue in our town and across our province, really across our country. Currently, we are working with for changes to our legislation for the anti-poverty legislation through the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. So this council actually passed a motion to lobby the government to help out with that. So affordability for all residents. We have been approved more development agreements than we have in the past. Hopefully the supply will add more affordability to the market. We have, with the federal government, have the Housing Accelerator Fund, where we've been able to hire more staff so we can actually put boots on the ground to find out how we can make real change. We can model people like the Antigonish Affordable Association, where they did housing in collaboration with the province, the county, and charity organizations. They have a great model that we can look to. The province, we are working with them to revitalize the Dale Street homes that are there. So we are making some progress. They aren't going to happen overnight, but we are working towards some of these things. Partnerships will be key. We need to look to the federal, the provincial, or other municipal units and Acadia to fix these problems. I think it's going to be a strategic planning session where we sit together and talk about all of the opportunities and challenges that we have and see if we can find a way forward.
Thank you. And with that, that concludes the question portion of our Q&A. Can I just get one more round of applause for all of the candidates? And as you all trickle out, if you have any questions you want to ask them or me following the Q&A, please feel free to come up. And thank you for coming out tonight.